What you wanna do is first off find yourself a good recommendation on here. Once you get a good recommendation, watch me this. But you wanna get yourself a good recommendation. That's some Mickey's. That's some Mickey's fine, but liquor. What you wanna do is run down, grab yourself some olive oil. You dump this on a pan like this. You see this? You dump it right on the pan, and then you come down here like this, and you throw it right on to a heated element. They call it an element, a heated element, and you start to fry this. You're gonna be frying quite a bit. She never look back. You don't ever want to look back on it. Always keeps moving straight to hit me. So what you can do is you can put in even just 2 pieces of this here right off the bat. You come to your cheese storage and you put out the pre and you slice yourself off with a big baby slice. And you put that fat bastard right here. And you're gonna have to cut yourself some fat slices of this here cheese a few times. But you're gonna want to get yourself a good recommendation. If you can't get yourself a good recommendation, then what good are you? But we're moving along quite nicely. I'll take a few licks of the old blade. And this one here, she's a fine dandy. But you want to get a good recommendation, don't you? Well, that's not going to be a problem, is it? You're not going to be a problem now, are you? Wait now. This isn't what we had going here. Stop this. We're supposed to be live. What the fuck? Come on now.
Tonight, jury deliberation gets underway in Manhattan in the criminal hush money trial of former President.
He's going to get off scot-free.
Razor-thin primary win for a Texas incumbent highlights the growing rift within the Republican Party.
Judy Woodruff looked at how Alaska...
Man, I have major COVID allergies. Ooh, slack. It's like I need some Kool-Aid. You take your Bowie knife and you look at it. And then right pretty thin here, you're going to get yourself a plate. Or you get a cheese. But you got to have your Mickeys.
Major funding for the PBS
You got to.
has been provided by
Consumer Cellular, this is Sam. How can I help you?
You got to have your Mickeys on hand.
Thought I'd let you know.
The lucky clover.
Nationwide coverage with no cost. So it's kind of our thing. Have a nice day.
I'll take a swig.
A successful business owner sells his company and restores his father's historic jazz club with his son. A Raymond James financial advisor gets to know you, your passions, and the way you bring people together. Life well planned.
the Judy and Peter Blaine Kovler Foundation.
You want to check the burn? She's got a good burn, but I think we're running out of oil. For the next turn of the flip, I guess we'll put some more. Olive oil does not hurt anyone. It's good for you.
Supported by the John D. and Catherine T.
It's good for you, for crying out, you little laddies. You little stupid laddies, it's good for you. It's good for you, you stupid little laddies.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions
Corporation for Public Licking.
like you.
Yeah, need for a good malt liquoring.
Welcome to the News Hour. Former President Donald Trump's future now rests in the hands of a jury in New York City. Jurors in the criminal hush money case against Mr. Trump began deliberating this morning.
7 men and 5 women received instructions from Judge Juan Merchan and were then sent off to decide this historic case. William Brangham has been covering the trial from the start, and he joins us now. So, William, let's start with those instructions that the judge gave to the members of the jury. They're very important in this case, the subject of a lot of debate between the defense and the prosecution. Tell us more about what exactly the judge instructed those jurors to do this
It's
morning.
bloody good.
You're right on that. They're important in every case, but particularly in this one because it is such a complicated case. And the judge laid out several key issues. First off, he stressed to the jury that a defendant can be held liable for the criminal acts of other people if the defendant basically instructed or asked or helped them to do so.
Well, he owns the business.
Secondly, the judge then went through the 34 different charges, which all accused Donald Trump of
He owned the business.
business records. And those are 34 different checks and invoices and ledger entries, all in relation to the payment made to silence adult film stars.
Since I've burned a lot of calories lately,
Third,
I'm super hungry.
that for those 34 charges to become
So I'll be eating this whole pile. I'll be eating this whole pile. This giant pile of grilled cheese. I'll be eating.
Committing
All to me own self.
New York State election law, which basically prohibits someone's.
I want to make sure you have a sharp knife for grilled cheese. It's been known to be tough.
And he
in
explained
this
that that's
area.
a violation of federal election law,
Maybe I'll do.
falsifying other records, or tax law. Again,
8 squares equaling about
they asked for a rereading
Oh.
of some of those. Those
30.
apply to each and every count, and the jury
300 calories per.
Now
Oh,
sits
triangles.
the jury.
2,400 calories.
It's a big if, but if the jury does decide that former President Trump is guilty in this case, what kind of punishment might he be facing?
If he's found guilty on 1 count or 34 counts or somewhere in between, it is then up to the judge to decide his sentence. And in New York State, judges have a lot of leeway in deciding the sentencing. Each of these charges carries a maximum of 4 years and $5,000 penalty, 4 years in prison. But it is not at all clear that the former president would be incarcerated. He could be sentenced to probation. He could be sentenced to house arrest. Each of those latter two would give him more freedom. I mean, all along, Judge Merchan has acknowledged the historic nature of who this defendant is. I mean, this is a man who's running for president. He ought to be out campaigning. This is a man who very well could become
Yeah,
the next
But
president.
yeah, I have to pay like Martha Stewart paid.
For him to imprison Donald Trump, but he said if it comes to that and he feels it's necessary, he could do so. Whether that happens or not, I mean, legal analyst Norm Eisen looked at all of the cases of felony prosecutions of falsifying business records, like this case, and found that about
Martha
10%
Stewart.
of those cases ended up where the defendant went to jail for a period of time. Now, those cases often involved other charges as well that Trump is not facing, and, of course, none of those defendants were Donald Trump. You also simply can't overlook Trump's history and his demeanor towards the rule of law. I mean, this is a man who has been fined and warned and held in contempt by a lot of different judges in different cases. He's never admitted guilt or remorse. He has attacked this judge directly. All of those things can be counted in sentencing. So it's very uncertain. If anyone is
For
telling you they know
40
what's
years.
here, don't listen to them.
So
240 years.
So
Trump.
running for president, and we obviously have to wait for the jury to reach a decision, but do we have any sense of how a verdict is
Out of the 34 counts, you are getting 4 years each. The max is 200, 1,200 something.
Colleagues at Marist and NPR, we put out a poll that asked this question: what might happen if Trump were found guilty or not guilty, and how that would affect their vote? And I want to put up some of those results here. If Trump is found not guilty among all registered voters, 14% said it was more likely they would vote for him. 9% said it was less likely he'd get their vote. 3/4 of all registered voters said it wouldn't make a difference. But among Republican voters, an innocent verdict bumps up that more likely to vote for him number to 26%. The percentage saying they're less likely to vote for him drops to just 3%, and those saying it makes no difference, that goes down slightly to 68%. Now, what if Trump is found guilty? Among all voters, those saying they're more likely to vote for him stays unchanged, about 15%. But double the number, 17%.
So what you're saying is,
the verdict means they're less likely to vote for him. And 67% of all registered voters, again, say it wouldn't make any difference. But again, let's look specifically at Republican voters. If he is found guilty, the number of Republicans saying for him goes up 10% to a quarter of all Republican voters. The number saying they're less likely to vote for him rises to 10%. That's a 7% shift. 64% of all Republicans say a guilty verdict would make no difference. So overall, this poll indicates that a guilty verdict could impact Donald Trump, but only at the margins, affecting his electoral chances.
All right, that is William Brangham joining us from New York tonight. William, thank you.
Thanks, Sona.
what does it all mean? Wow.
In the day's other headlines, Israel's national security advisor says he expects another 7 months of fighting in Gaza. The remarks come amid growing international pressure on Israel over its offensive against Hamas. It also raises questions about control Gaza.
Welcome to the tiny house.
At a press conference today in Moldova,
If you don't know what you're watching right now, it's a Mortlake video.
with a strategy.
I'm 700,000 years old.
The day after, there won't be a day after. And this is where we need to go. Or if not, we'll have chaos, lawlessness, and a vacuum that will eventually be filled again by Hamas or maybe something else.
I'm currently at 300,
On the ground, Israel's
about 200 pounds plus 30. That's about 260. I'm reaching for 300 by the end of the month
Is a focal point for tunnels that Hamas uses to smuggle weapons and
to raise money for the kids.
Meantime, Israel expanded its offensive.
If I can weigh 400 pounds by Halloween,
The IDF released video
definitely by Christmas, I can raise so much money,
buildings within the city. Thousands of
gain so much weight,
to evacuate the areas
and help people.
South Africans voted today in what could be the country's most significant election in decades. The African National Congress Party led South Africa out of apartheid and has dominated the political scene for the last 3 decades. But several polls have put the ANC support among voters below 50%, meaning it could lose its majority in parliament. The economy is a driving factor for many voters, with an estimated half of South Africa's 62 million residents living in poverty.
So I think if we want to change the economic state and all the things that we complain about, we post about on social media and all of that, I think all of us need to come out and actually do something about it.
Roughly 45% of South Africans are registered to vote, and final results are expected by this Sunday. A volcano in southwestern Iceland has erupted for a 5th time since December. The eruption shot red-hot bursts of lava more than 100 feet in the air along a fissure over a mile long. This particular stretch of volcanoes
awesome,
had been dormant for 800 years before eruptions started again in 2021. Criminal charges against the world's top golfer have been dismissed. Scottie Scheffler was facing a felony charge and 3 misdemeanors related to a traffic incident at the PGA Championship in Kentucky earlier this month. Scheffler did not appear in court for today's brief hearing, and it was not his lawyer, but rather the county prosecutor who requested the case be dismissed.
My office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler. Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was, quote, a big misunderstanding, close quote, is corroborated by the evidence.
Scheffler's attorney says the golfer is happy it's over. The incident has since been disciplined for not activating his body camera during the arrest. Nissan has issued an urgent do not drive warning to owners of older vehicles, citing an increased risk of explosions from their Takata brand airbag inflators. The malfunction sends dangerous metal fragments flying toward the driver. The recall affects 84,000 older vehicles that include the 30,000 Pathfinder, an Infiniti QX4 SUV, as well as the early to mid-2000s ultra compact cars. Today's recall comes after one person was killed and as many struggled amid ongoing worries over the timing of potential interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost more than 400 points to close at 38,441. The Nasdaq gave back nearly 100 points after closing at an all-time high on Tuesday. The S&P 500 dropped 39 points. And giant pandas are returning to Washington. The Smithsonian's National Zoo announced today that China has agreed to send a pair of pandas to the U.S. They'll fill the void left by the 3 pandas who were returned to China last November. The number of pandas in American zoos has dwindled as loan agreements lapsed during diplomatic tensions between the U.S. and China. The National Zoo's director laid out the details of the agreement earlier today.
I mean, a panda bear will kill you.
We are welcoming giant pandas back to our nation's capital by the end of this year. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The Smithsonian and the China Wildlife Conservation Association have reached a 10-year cooperative...
Panda bear with a gun walks into a restaurant.
The only pandas currently in the
Orders,
at the zoo Atlanta.
eats,
Scheduled to go back to
shoots,
China
and
at the
leaves.
end of the year. So, some sad days ahead for Atlanta, but some very good news for panda fans in D.C. Still to come on the News Hour, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito rejects calls to recuse himself from January 6th related cases, despite a flag controversy. A new report exposes decades of sexual abuse of Native American children by clergy at Catholic boarding schools. And Major League Baseball has a new all-time career leader in batting and slugging, after the Hall of Fame recognizes achievements by players in the Negro Leagues.
This is the PBS News Hour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.
U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito told lawmakers today he won't recuse himself from cases involving the 2020 presidential election or the January 6th Capitol riot, as despite concerns about 2 flags associated with far-right causes that have flown over his properties. Responding to demands from...
I'm pretty sure I got COVID again.
...qualify himself, Alito said in 2 letters that his wife...
I cannot taste
and Alito was responsible
anything.
for the flags. My wife is an independently minded...
Cannot smell anything.
She makes her own decisions, and I honor her right to do so.
I feel like I'm dying inside.
She specializes in government ethics. Thanks for being with us, especially as you're traveling.
I feel like I got COVID.
The New York Times reported
got
there was an
aches,
upside-down American flag
sneezing,
Virginia home
sniffling, nighttime.
Biden's inauguration.
You
And
sleep
in
better
the
medicine.
letter that he issued today, the justice said
Oh.
nothing whatsoever to do with the flag.
I got a COVID test I could take. I think I'm gonna.
But she refused for several days. And he says, my wife and I own our Virginia home jointly. She therefore has the legal right to use the property as she sees fit. Is that an adequate explanation from an ethics perspective?
No, it is not.
I knew something was odd. I thought maybe it was just allergies, but it's not.
No one's questioning her legal rights.
Maybe I've been
The issue is whether
drinking too much damn Kool-Aid.
once it has become clear that this
Maybe I've been drinking too much damn Kool-Aid. As a matter of fact, hang on.
Insurrection was displayed in front of a house he co-owns. So this isn't about his rights, First Amendment rights. This is about recusing obligations that
Have some more
Congress
Kool-Aid.
imposed on justices and judges.
I feel like my liver.
He also addressed the more recent reporting.
I got rid of my liver.
There was this appeal to heaven flag that flew at his beach home in New Jersey. This is the flag that was also carried by January 6th rioters. And in his letter, he says, I'm not familiar with the appeal to heaven flag when my wife flew it. She may have mentioned that it dates back to the American Revolution, and I assumed she was flying it to express a religious and patriotic message. I was not aware of the connection between this appeal movement, and neither was my wife. Fly it to associate herself with that or any other group. As I said in reference to the other flag event, my wife is an independently minded private citizen. She makes her own decisions, and I honor her right to do so. Our vacation home was purchased with money she inherited from her parents and is titled in her name. It is a place away from Washington where she should be able to relax. again, your assessment of this explanation.
The case recall is indeed, this is a home that Justice Alito
Then he should divorce that bitch.
legal right to. That is the case. But again, the issue is
Just kidding. I don't know.
just subjectively what was in Justice Alito's mind. Congress mandates that justices recuse, disqualify themselves if their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. It's not enough to say that, as Justice Alito was, ignorant. The question is whether it's reasonable for people to question his impartiality in these cases related to the January 6th.
Well, no wonder why I support Trump.
What about Justice Clarence Thomas? Because he has also faced calls to recuse himself, given the fact that his wife, Ginny Thomas, was involved in efforts to reverse President Biden's election win. She also attended the rally that Donald Trump held the day of the insurrection. Justice Thomas hasn't recused himself, nor has he explained to the American public why he chose not to recuse.
Both wrong.
Is he duty-bound to
There is no legal requirement that
Both wrong. Sitting in the rain.
of good ethics and good policy, he absolutely should explain himself. I mean, that is the one positive thing I can say about Justice Alito's letter to Congress to
Get out of it. Get out of you.
explain his refusal to recuse. And justices should explain themselves when they refuse to disqualify themselves.
the Supreme Court, as you well know, adopted.
You got Kelvin, don't you?
Last
Well, nobody cares.
First time in history it's ever done that. Is there anything in that code of ethics that speaks to these situations involving Justices Alito and Thomas?
Yes, there is.
You know what they say, drink a lot of liquids.
A conduct that the
Sugar waters.
court adopted.
Don't drink plain water, it's poison.
Purports to change the rule, the law that Congress
Oh, I got tsetse fly.
on justices of the Supreme Court. So the statute says justices have to recuse when their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. And that code of conduct suggests they only need to recuse.
I'll give you a code of conduct, code of arms. How about that?
Would
Is that what you want, a code of arms?
impartiality, suggesting that
Maybe I breathe in too much
the,
hair,
it's
fur.
a biased person who questions
Fur pie
impartiality, then they don't
disease.
need to recuse. This is not the
You
same
probably
as
suffer from
Congress
fur pie disease.
on justices, and it seems to be, I think the justices
From the
apparently
broken arrow.
gave them some wiggle room, and now Alito is trying to use that wiggle room to justify his refusal to recuse.
And at least as it stands right now, the justices themselves are the final arbiters here.
Yes, and that's a very important point. The justices themselves
The bringers.
individually decide
Bring it on.
to refuse. There's a basic concept in law and in ethics that someone should not be the judge of their own case. And we see the importance of that standard in this situation. Justice Alito claims that no reasonable, unbiased person would question his impartiality, and seems to be suggesting that those of us who argue that he needs to recuse are somehow biased. He's accusing,
Damn COVID.
experts of bias when he's
Damn you, COVID.
Kathleen Clark is a professor of law at Washington University in St. Louis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh. The number of Americans who are thinking the justice issues are motivated by political reason from 35% in 2019 to 54% in 2024.
A congressional primary election in Texas is getting national attention for what it could mean for the future of the Republican Party and for other incumbents.
Just become Democrats.
Laura Brown Lopez has more.
That's right, Amna. Like past recent election cycles,
That's right.
extreme far-right candidates are running up and down the ballot. In Texas, incumbent Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez, who has worked with across the aisle on a number of issues face such a challenge. Last night, Gonzalez narrowly staved off the far-right personality Brandon Herrera, with 49.7% of the vote to Herrera's 49.3%. To discuss what growing divides mean for the future of the Republican Party, I'm joined by former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh. Thank you so much for being here.
Jalalibad.
Brandon Herrera forced Congressman Gonzalez into this runoff and was attacking Congressman Gonzalez specifically for voting for bipartisan bills on gun safety, on gay marriage, and Congressman Gonzalez barely won by 407 votes. What's your big takeaway from this?
It was a unique race because without the issue of immigration, which is the biggest issue down there, Gonzalez would have lost. I mean, he nearly won against a far-right, gun-loving kook who would have beaten him if that was the only issue. But I think immigration and I think Abbott's endorsement of Gonzalez really helped push him over. Yes.
Gonzalez called himself a Trump supporter, said that he supports the former president, but he is someone who appears willing to work with Democrats and work across the aisle. Yes, he won, but do you think that there is a future in the Republican Party for more centrist, moderate, bipartisan Republicans?
No. Well, you have to be a Trump supporter. And even Gonzalez, who is thought of as more of a centrist Republican, he's all
Trump and fuck Putin.
He got down on his knees and said the greatest things about Trump during this campaign to help him win. So you have to be that, or there's no room in the party. But no, the base of the party still wants the most extreme MAGA voices.
And so if you don't support Trump, you can lose in a primary. And, I mean, you're someone who rode in on the Tea Party wave. Do you feel as though
Fuck Trump, what about the American people?
Tea Party candidates push the party down this path?
Like, what do you want?
Absolutely. We helped lead to Trump. I've said this often. The base of my former party is radicalized. We helped to radicalize them. And that's a scary thing. But in those days, it was where you stood on the issues. That made you either a rhino or a far-right Republican. Now, it's all about where do you stand on Trump. And if you oppose Trump, like Joe Walsh or Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, you have no future in the party.
So you're saying in your day it was more about policy?
It was all about policy. You were a crazy Tea Party conservative or an establishment Republican, but that was where you stood on issues.
Yeah, because I'm all
I want to ask you also about some other Republican candidates. One in Minnesota, Royce White.
I'm fucking Kool-Aid, you know?
A primary for the U.S. Senate there, but he has...
Grilled cheese and COVID. These are the days. Take a look around.
He also appeared with Trump's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, and on when he was talking to him,